Schmuck?
Yeah, okay. That's okay. that's aptly put. So here, actually, to discuss this and more, because it's a national story, and she's a lot of fun, our kind of councilwoman, Miss Vickie Paladino. And on X, it's at Vickie for NYC. Miss Paladino, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can see you, and I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, thank you. We're so glad to have you on the show. And I wanted to first ask you, like, what did you observe during this trial, and did you kind of have a sense of the outcome being so close to it in New York?
You know, it always made, first of all, my sense of the trial was should have never happened in the first place, like you've heard everybody say. It was racially motivated, absolutely. DA Bragg is been a political nightmare. He's not a true AG. He actually, and what am I allowed to say and what aren't I allowed?
You can say anything you want, believe me.
Okay, good. Well, he sucks.
Okay.
And he really should, how's that, good?
That's yeah. More,
good.
lay it on me.
And he really should not be holding the office that he's holding. And here's a little caveat. Mm-hmm. Tom Caniff, which was one of Daniel Penny's defense attorneys, ran against Alvin Bragg in the last election.
Okay.
And now I'll step out of the box again a little bit because Tom Caniff did not get the backing that he needed from the party.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Because here in the city, everybody just assumes it's a lost race. Why invest?
Right.
So you have the island of Manhattan, 1.6 million people, and you have a guy like Alvin Bragg running, and you have an upstanding guy like Tom running. And sadly, the Republicans saw it as a lost race before it even started. And had they invested in Tom the way they should have, knowing that the DA's position on the island of Manhattan is more powerful than the mayor at times.
Yeah.
They hold that much clout.
Right.
So we could have had an upstanding DA, and this nightmare that we have would not have existed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why do you think, and Republicans consider it a loss, whereas, you know, the first time I ever visited New York, it was actually for Thanksgiving, right after 9/11. There was still smoke down there in Ground Zero. This was when Rudy Giuliani was man of the year. So I know that nationally it's very unlikely that, of course, they'll be voting for a Republican for president. But if you look at governors, if you look at the state legislature, it's not like it's a lost cause. It's a very good point. Why do you think so many in the Republican Party just abandon that, concede that territory?
Well, it's been a lost cause for a while now. I mean, Ronald Reagan is the only one who took this city, state, the entire thing.
Right, on a national level.
The person who flipped everybody's way of thinking was, of course, Barack Obama. And everything went totally and absolutely to the left. Because of that mindset. Now, look, we were always loaded with liberals, but we didn't have the progressive left radical movement that we have today. Yeah, it's insanity. Insanity has taken over. So
can I ask you this, because you just mentioned Barack Obama, and earlier you said, and I want to make sure it's really clear, you said this was racially motivated. For people who misheard that, you're talking about Alvin Bragg, of course, trying to use this to race bait because Daniel Penny was white.
Right.
Did you see that become far more? Because I will say this, as someone who's in my 30s. I grew up in a post-racial, America, Canada, where our biggest stars, Will Smith and Denzel Washington. The biggest films were Will Smith films, Denzel, and the biggest show was Fresh Prince. And then Barack Obama became president, and that's when we had the eruption that America was more racist than ever. Did you see that in New York?
Well, of course. And, you know, I, like you, I grew up in the late 60s and the 70s. I'm a lot older than you are, and my son is your age. And I have to say this. You know, we've watched Manhattan. We've watched this change. The difference is now is that everybody hates. That word hate was not used the way it's used today. Right. So when Barack Obama stepped in, we had this man come in with a totally different agenda. One that he kind of snuck in under the rug, because everybody, I will say this, was thrilled to have an African-American president. Yep. There were a lot of people that were super excited because of his color of his skin. And he was an orator. He's brilliant. He could speak to anything.
Right.
But what everybody did not realize was the division that he was going to bring into this order. It said order by mistake. It was a Freudian slip. The world order. Yeah. He had an agenda.
Yep.
And his agenda was to flip everything, and he did.
Well, it started with Trayvon Martin. Remember, he said, no, if I had a son, it'd probably look a lot like Trayvon. And then everyone said, oh, that's licensed to say this was a lynching. That led to Mike Brown. It really was pernicious, yeah. And now you're dealing with it in New York.
More and more obvious. He separated us not just by race. If you became a wealthy individual, an entrepreneur, successful in any kind of CEO of any kind of large business, you were considered a villain.
Yeah,
you really were.
Right,
and you were demonized for that.
Yeah.
So
and we see that now with the United Healthcare shooting that took place, and I'm disturbed by how many people seem to be very comfortable with it. I do want to ask you this, specifically in New York, because you've had to deal with this in the past. Do you see the Black Lives Matter protests here being a major issue, or do you think that most New Yorkers aren't buying what they're selling anymore?
They're not buying what they're selling anymore. No way. No. I said that I was on Rob Schmidt last night on Newsmax, and we talked a lot about that because you had the one guy from Black Lives Matter outside the courthouse screaming about lynching and lynching. Give me a break, will you? You got 10 people standing behind you. That was it.
Yeah.
He was shouting into the microphone. Then they wobbled up, Jordan Neely's dad. They propped him up at the mic, and they all said how sorry they were and this, that, the other thing. It's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Okay? Because where were you when your son needed you? Where were you? And the uncle dressed to the nines, very sharp, Where were you when your nephew needed you? When he was homeless, when he became, addicted to drugs, he was a schizophrenic. Where were you? This was, nobody should have died. I want to make this very clear.
Of course.
This was unfortunate, but this was inevitable. Because what's happened to our system here in New York is we have totally closed any sort of mental hospital or any kind of place we could put the mentally infirmed, where they stay for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because there are those who can go back into the city and lead perfectly great lives. I know a lot of people who had drug issues and problems that had to do 30 days, had to do 60 days, had to do 90 days, and sometimes more than once. And they came back as functioning adults in their 30s and made very good use of themselves, owners of businesses and stuff like that. So we can't condemn all of them, but we do have to face a fact that there are mentally ill people that cannot be fixed anymore.
Why were they all shut down in New York, too? What was
was Cuomo. That was Cuomo. We had a mental hospital on the Staten Island. I forgot what the hell the name of it was. And
I know there used to be one in on Roosevelt Island because they turned them into apartment complexes, but that's from a long time ago.
How long ago?
From a while ago, because when I was living there in New York in 2011, I almost moved to one until someone said, that used to be an insane asylum. I said, maybe I won't go to Roosevelt Island.
Insane asylum. I hate that word. But yes, when I ran for state senate, which a lot of people don't know, I ran in 2018. At that point, the Republicans held the New York State Senate by one seat because there's 60 some odd people that make up the Senate in New York State. And I tried desperately to put my point across how important it was that we held it. Well, sadly, the shift was already happening. The blue wave was already in full swing. And there was no way I was going to win. John Liu took the seat. That was fine. He's an established. I was not established. Who was Vickie Paladino? Vickie Paladino was a kitchen table politic and an activist, okay? Somebody who always spoke her mind and everybody knew about it.
Right.
So I had $37,000. And here I was going up against somebody who ran for New York City Comptroller in 2013, But I said, what the hell? Let me see. Everything I said that was going to happen happened. Bail reform, injection sites, the closing of Rikers Island, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So it was a losing battle, and we've become a losing battle since then.
Well, I want to continue this, by the way, and of course, people can follow you at Vickie for NYC on X. We're going to continue this on Rumble Premium. When there, you can say absolutely whatever you want. If you'll stay with us for just about 1 minute, and the break, people who are watching right now, Vickie Paladino, uncensored. Can we have a graphic? We'll put it on later. Click right there to continue watching. Thank you very much. Rumble Premium. Let's go. Mug Club now. All right, we are back with... with Vickie Paladino. Is that a gaming chair that you have there? I'm only looking at a small box. It looks like
no.
Oh, okay, I see it. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to have an Aeron. Is that an Aeron? I used to have an Aeron chair, and then they turned to crap. Someone told me like, you got to get this chair, and then I always had a sore back.
Well, they told me I need this chair. I said, okay, fine. Yeah. Whatever.
I picture you in like a big old burgundy leather chair. I think that would suit you.
I have one of those at home.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, make them. Hey, look, they work for you, not the other way around. Tell them, get me like a leather bound book chair.
There you go. A throne. How about that?
There you go. So, how do you write this like with Alvin Bragg? How do you write this ship? What is it that can honestly be done? Because, like I said, I remember the New York of Rudy Giuliani. I mean, he was so effective that Bill Clinton tried to take credit for lowering the crime rate nationally when over 1/3 of it could be attributed to New York City alone. So it's always odd to me that New Yorkers have experienced this and now they've reverted to the state in which they find themselves. Is there a way to get it back?
Yes, there is a way to get it back. It's called Republicans need to invest in a candidate that's worth investing in.
Yeah.
And I think what Trump did to New York was huge. If to other people who don't live here, the 11-point upswing that we had just in Queens alone was tremendous to see this happen. 46% of the state went for Trump. That is beyond huge.
Right.
So this election that we just had shows everybody, whether you are a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, the people voted for Donald Trump. Right. They voted for what he stood for.
Right.
And I think people are sick and tired, more than sick and tired, fed up and disgusted with the progressive left-wing radical movement. They've had enough.
I've got to imagine that New Yorkers, a big part of it is crime. I mean, I think a lot of people in positions of power, they're surprised that a lot of New Yorkers support. I'm trying to remember the what was the name? The Guardians, those people who would
Guardian Angels.
Guardian Angels, right? Because they were portrayed at one point in the media as gangs, and no, they were actually helping old ladies on and off the subway carry bags. Sometimes they would get into fights because people would be violent, but a lot of New Yorkers liked them.
Do you know Curtis Lewa? Have you ever spoken? Did you ever hear of?
Yes, I know who he is, but I've never spoken with him.
Okay, well, he's a good friend.
Okay.
And Curtis Lewa, back in the day, which when I say the day, I mean the 70s and early 80s, he created the Guardian Angels here in New York. Yep. The Guardian Angels are now worldwide.
Right.
And they were viewed not so favorably by our police force back then. The police were very different back then.
Right.
Now they're social workers. Back then, they would bang your head up against a glass of your car and break the.
You need a little of column A, a little of column B, but granted.
There you go. It was way too. I mean, as far as I go, growing up in those times, those were the times of the hippies and all of that.
Yeah.
We would get pulled over just because of what my husband looked like.
Yeah.
And at the time, he wasn't my husband; he was my boyfriend. He would squeeze my kneecap, and he would say.
Every man knows that exact scenario. Shut up, honey. It's not just you by yourself.
Don't say a word, he would say. Don't say a word.
Yes.
Let me handle this because two hands on the wheel. Yes, sir. What could I do for you? Otherwise, they smash your face.
What?
Now, you don't want that. But now, so the Guardian Angels came in. They weren't weren't really liked by our police. But what they did was they manned the subways. Serpico days. Ever watch Serpico?
Yeah, that's back before Al Pacino faked his voice. He was sitting there going, "Come on down here, they're here now." Now he talks like this. I like big asses. You're like, that's not your voice, Al. I saw Serpico.
That's not your voice, Al. But we lived in those times. That's my time.
Yeah.
So we saw New York at its worst.
Yeah.
At its worst. And dare I say, it was probably worse in the way it looked, filthy, dirty, and everything.
Yep.
Back in those days, Times Square, disgusting, disgusting. Yeah. Rudy turned it into Disneyland, which I didn't favor much either. But there was no mix. But in any case, we saw this change. Now we watched the Bronx burn. We watched all of New York burn again in 2020. So in my lifetime, I've seen it burn 3 times. This has been. The people now, like I started earlier, saying we've had enough with the progressive left movement. We've had it with the far right. We've had it with the far left. We want center. We want common sense. And that's why Trump won. Right. Trump won because of common sense. Rudy Giuliani won because of common sense, because the crime was through the roof. I don't know if you know this or not. Rudy swore me in when I won in 21. Yeah, Rudy and I go back, and I'm very close to Andrew, his son. So, when I speak of Rudy today, I speak with a broken heart.
Yeah,
because they have ruined America's mayor.
Yeah, they've really gone after him. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yes,
we've had him on the show quite a bit. Actually, Hunter Biden's laptop was revealed on this show to the world for the first time, and I didn't know. I was dressed as Marty McFly. I think it was a Halloween special. And I see him on this little screen, and he's like, and actually, I do. I have the laptop right here. I go, wait, is that's the actual laptop? He's like, yeah, the images on here are horrifying, Stephen. I'm like, whoa, go back to that. Yes,
slow down. Yeah, take it back a notch.
Yeah, wow. I had no idea. And I remember too. Yeah, I remember that because I went and I visited New York for the first time in 2001. I was 13 years old, maybe 14. After 9/11. Right after 9/11, we went down to Ground Zero, and it was still hazy. And I remember how clean, though, the streets were. It's not that way today. I do remember because I came from Montreal, where we had a subway system that was very clean. But I remember thinking, wow, the New York subway system is unbelievably clean. The one thing you didn't have, in contrast to Montreal, which is a big city, is the gum on the sidewalk was all over Montreal. I noticed that in New York, that wasn't there. And I just said, wow, what I was sold as New York is not true. And going back to the Guardian Angels, too, we actually did a segment on this. Actually, we might want to bring it back up where I said, you're going to have a Dirty Harry, you're going to have a Charles Bronson death wish. These were responses to what people thought was lawlessness. I mean, that was, in that time, you had Bernie Goetz, right, which was far more severe than Daniel Penny. That was vigilante. That was vigilantism, but he got off because people said, we get it. This guy was beaten within an inch of his life, and it was going to happen again. And he shot them, and he went back to shoot him again.
Yes, he did. This year with Daniel Penny, this was such a shame. And when we got the news the other day, Monday, when I tell you yesterday, when it feels like it's Thursday, when we got the news yesterday, we all went, whoosh.
Yeah.
Because on Friday, when they came back deadlocked, the question was, what made up out of 12 people? Was it 1? Was it 5? Was it 6? Was it 11 that agreed that he should be found not guilty?
Right.
So it goes to show you when they went home that Friday, right, just a few days ago, they came back on Monday. Bam, in a minute, they came back out. It was decided not guilty because they know when they sent them home. Now, look, it's human nature. You go home and your mother's talking to you, your sister's talking to you, your neighbors are talking to you. You're watching TV. You're not going to tell me you're not. Right. Okay? And they knew that the DA, the ADA, was sending them home, telling them, and the judge who sucked, he said, go home and find them guilty of something. Find him guilty.
Yeah.
Because we have a lesser charge. In the history, and I've been on now with a lot of lawyers over the last 2 weeks, lawyers that have been practicing, born, bred New Yorkers, 39 years, 40 years, 42 years, a little bit less in 30 years. They know it. They know the system. Never, ever in the history of them being lawyers in the city of New York have they ever heard a judge send a jury back to try to convict a man of yet another crime, a lesser charge.
Yeah.
Like, go home, find him guilty. And the ADA, who was the most despicable piece of garbage, she kept referring to him as the white man, white man. I had Alvin Bragg sitting right across the aisle from me, right there. Yeah. And I leaned forward and I said to my chief, I said to Allie, is that Alvin Bragg? And she leaned forward. He was one in off the aisle. And she says, it is. I said, okay, great. It took everything I had for Daniel's sake to stay quiet. That was on Monday of last week because I went to closing arguments. Closing arguments was a joke. And I really wasn't sure. You know, you're judged by, a jury of your peers. And looking at them and sitting there, you're looking at each and every one of them and you're trying to get a read.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it.
No.
You just couldn't do it. And they
I would imagine that this jury, obviously New York, probably some people of color in there as well. So this idea that
it was a very good mix. It was a very good mix. But you didn't knowing you live in liberal New York.
Right.
And you have the ADA hammering you. And you got Alvin Bragg sitting right there. That was the only day he went to court. You have him sitting right there. I'm happy to say I'm very proud of the New York jurors that found Daniel Penny not guilty. I was incredibly proud because I really wasn't sure. This is a liberal city.
Yeah.
But Tom Caniff and Steve, they helped pick the jury. So, you left with a little bit of hope.
Let me ask you this, considering that we're talking about a jury, do you think it'll be hard to put together a jury who will convict Luigi Mangione there? Because it seems like a lot of New Yorkers, are happy that a CEO of a big company was shot.
How sick is that?
Yeah.
How sick is that?
It's sick.
This is what we've come to. This is how low we have gone. Now, here's another very prime example of mental illness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This kid was out of his mind. Yeah. Now, when I first heard, my head's been so wrapped up with my just daily life of what I need to do. Then we put Daniel Penny in it. We were really on top of the Trump in New York and doing everything we could.
Sure.
So the head was going at it couldn't take much more. So now when I was not paying close attention when I heard about the CEO getting shot down in cold blood in the street. So I had just seen the video last week. And when I saw this guy step out of the darkness and shoot him the way he did, pow, 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 my brain immediately went to, this is gangland style.
Yeah.
This is something you would see the mafia do years ago. So I thought there might have been a gripe that somebody had with this guy and wanted to take him out. I never thought I was going to see some young kid, a valedictorian, wealthy parents, 2 degrees. What's he got? PhD in something and something else.
I know computer science from UPenn. I know that. I don't know how many degrees.
Brilliant off the charts, like 2 major schools, UPenn and another one. And when I saw this, I was like shocked. So here you have an example of a young guy who snapped.
Yeah.
So this is, a lot of parents sometimes are blind to the fact that they have a troubled person living with them.
Well, they expect the educational system to raise them for them. I mean, that's why the truth is we don't need 8 hours a day of schooling for kids. We do it so they can be babysitters so both parents can go to work.
Today more than ever. More than ever. It's when I see young moms, including my nieces, having to turn over their 2-year-olds, makes me sick.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is that, like you said, you're letting the government raise your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
Or if they'd like to say and have their way, they should decide what gender they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how sick it is.
It's perverse.
So, and it's perverse. Now, here's the other side of the coin. Who could afford $600-700 a week for private childcare?
Right.
If you're not fortunate enough to have a grandparent, your mom, your dad, or an aunt or an uncle that you could trust, or maybe a neighbor, you're forced, because you have to work. Mm-hmm. You're forced to put your kid into the new programs that they have, pre-K. They're looking to literally take your child from the cradle right through to college and any university, and raise them as they see fit.
And you know what? I actually that dovetails into Gerald, who you've met, did have a question for you. I think specifically in regards to teachers and what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So, Vickie, it's good to see you again. I wanted to see if there had been any updates since we last talked about some of the cases for some of the teachers who were let go from their jobs, if you guys don't remember, from refusing to take the COVID jab. Even some of them got reinstated, but I think people have been standing in the way of that happening. So is there any update that you can give us on that?
No, actually, I have Daphne here. Allie is my chief.
Yeah.
But Daphne is the saddest, very sad story. Single mom, 29 years, same school in Astoria, which is not far from here. She was the lone wolf. By that, I mean, she actually won her case.
Yeah.
She actually won her case. She was told to report to school on the first day, and they were supposed to let her in. She had the papers with her. She had all her court orders. Everything was there. There was same principal, too, for 29 years. So they knew her. Security guards, everybody. And they said, Daphne, I'm sorry, I cannot let you in. She went to school every single day on her lawyer's say-so. Go every day and let them turn you away every day. And no, they are not rehiring any of the teachers that were let go for not getting the COVID jab, even though Daphne's got a paper from her lawyer saying you are legally bound to go back to work. Because of the DOE and the UFT, she is not allowed to. They are holding her back. So there's another lawsuit pending. This is absolutely off the charts ridiculous. Can you imagine being 6 months short of your pension, a single mother in her 50s, and she cannot count on that pension that she thought she was going to have for 6 lousy months? Are you kidding me?
And this is the difference between the right and the left. People on the right, they'll show up every day and they'll try to go through the system. And you know what? There is no recourse right now. Hopefully it has a happy ending. The left just goes and they'll shoot a CEO and then celebrate it with joy. And this is one, but you can only do this for so long where people feel like, hey, hold on a second. I'm doing everything right. I went through the process. I have my papers. All this woman is asking for is the right to make a living the same way she did for 29 years, and she has the right to by court order.
Yeah,
you want to talk about corruption?
I know. Department of Education. So there was 2 people that were standing in the way. Department of Education, people were like, okay, well, we hate the government, so that fits. The teachers union won't let her go back. The union won't let her do it. That's a piece that people miss in this thing.
That's exactly right. The UFT is the biggest slush fund this city's got. Okay, the MTA is state, but the UFT is the most powerful union in the city of New York, as it stands now. And during COVID and present day, we used to have over 1.1 million kids in our school system. We're circling around 750 to 850,000. Why is that? Because people have left New York City in droves. We lost over 450,000 native New Yorkers. Native New Yorkers. Not too far away, they went over to Nassau, which from here is only a 15-minute ride. So they're in Nassau County, which is Long Island. They're in Suffolk County, which is further out. Or they went up over the George Washington Bridge and the Tappan Zee Bridge, which takes you into Westchester. So you could drive to Manhattan, you could drive to Queens, you could be here inside of an hour's time with traffic, sometimes an hour and a half, but they'd rather take that ride.
That is,
and have a better life elsewhere.
And you know what? That actually, I'd never thought of this before, but if you give me, I'm just going through those numbers in my head. If it was 1.1, 1.2 million, like you said, children enrolled, now it's 700-something thousand, a total number of 400-something thousand people left.
It balances out, doesn't it?
It seems like a disproportionate number of people who left, specifically families with children. Does that mean that the teachers union is getting less funding, right? Because it's performance-based, correct?
I hope so.
Oh,
shit. We just approved more funding.
Oh, come on.
It's absolutely disgusting. It is the biggest waste of money. When you look at their salaries and what everybody's making, the biggest thing is, a lot of people don't realize our cities are run by non-for-profits.
Right.
This city is now run on non-for-profits. That's the way we do things here now. It's no longer just the agencies. The agencies sublet out. And that's why we're failing at everything we're trying to do. Our roads, okay? Department of Transportation, Transalt, bike lanes. We got to do this. Is who DOT goes to now.
Yeah.
Transalt, who, by the way, loves me to death. Okay, not. And it's sad to see, because we're losing our guys and our women who have started from the bottom, worked their way up, have been there for 30 years, and now they're being replaced by 27-year-olds, DEI hires who know nothing.
Yeah.
And they're being put in charge of a Department of Environmental, that's DEP. Our biggest agencies are being run by children, just the same way the city council is being run by children.
Yeah.
So with no life experience, a lot of them still live home with their mother.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And it used to be, I don't know if you know this, but societies typically valued their elders because they believed that they had wisdom. And today, instead, people just coin it with, okay, boomer. It's like, I'm not a boomer, but when I hear a kid say that, I go, well, hold on a second. Wait, really? You think you have nothing to glean from this person who's lived twice as long as you? We do have some questions from chat, Ms. Paladino, if you're willing to take a couple.
Sure. Call me Vickie.
Okay, all right, Vickie. I didn't want to be as disrespectful as casual as Gerald's
her.
here.
You told me to call her Vickie, so I was respecting her wishes.
I'm a council member. People just call me Vickie.
Yeah, I know, but Gerald's a disrespectful prick, so I didn't want to follow his lead. So,
come on.
Look, we have this from Jokiel Gaming. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He asks, how do leaders take the wind out of Black Lives Matter, their sails, without violence? And I think part of this is what we've discussed. The wind has been taken out of their sails, but is there more that you think New Yorkers need to do or that can be done?
Right now, Black Lives Matter is non-existent.
Yeah.
They've been deemed a domestic terrorist group. They hold no weight here anymore. Nobody's carrying their water for them. You will always have that Antifa bunch. You will always have the BLM bunch. Antifa is dangerous. Antifa is a different story.
Right.
Because that's what we saw with the anti-Semitism. And that's a different sort of trouble.
Yeah.
Those are violent people. BLM is too, but we took the wind is out of their sails. Nobody's buying the bill of goods they're trying to sell anymore.
Right. Black Lives Matter requires critical mass for them to be effective at all, whereas Antifa is almost like a specialized unit. They're just like sleeper cell terrorist kind of microcosms.
Just blow the whistle and they all come out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right, and I do think, hey, that's a big cultural shift. Something else we have from Scotch Dog, and this is an interesting question. Obviously, we all know how we feel or what we think about Bragg. Do you think that it's been so egregious that people like Donald Trump or his administration should prosecute or investigate Bragg?
Well, I put that out in my tweet. Ask him if he read my tweet.
Probably.
My tweet was all about that. I want a federal investigation.
Yeah.
I said that on Fox News this morning. I said I want a federal investigation brought against against Alvin Bragg and the DA in Manhattan, because they have been just so in your face egregious. Look what they did to Trump. They create these scenarios that are not legal. Right. They're not legal, and they're winning, and we can't have that. Right. So I want an investigation. And with Trump coming in, I'm going to call upon Pam Bondi, to look into this. We got Tom Homan coming in as our border czar, and we see Mayor Adams, wanting to listen to Tom Homan, which is tremendous.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Mayor Adams here, because it was interesting to me, he was a Johnny-come-lately where I think it was just late last week when he kind of weighed in on the Daniel Penny case and said, I hope that New Yorkers kind of do the right thing, kind of alluded to, don't railroad this guy. I do have a conspiracy where the fact that he pretty much stayed out of it until the very end, that maybe he got a hot tip as to which way the jury was leaning, because it was odd that he only came out then when he could have actually affected some change positively had he spoken out earlier.
No. It's actually quite the opposite.
Okay.
He stayed out of it just because he shouldn't say anything. He should have no influence on anything at all. He's the mayor. This is the jury of your peers. This is the trial system. He actually did the right thing. I stayed quiet except for pray for Daniel Penny.
Right.
You know, I beat the drum for, but he's the mayor. I'm a councilwoman. Apples and oranges, man. It's like this and this. But the thing is, Mayor Adams is beginning to see the light. I think Trump taking the win as he had. Did you know that Adams was a Republican in the late 90s and the 2000s, right?
Yeah, I remember.
So I really think that, pardon the pun, I think that Trump is going to be the white knight that comes in to save the day. Because he's going to bring his people, and I do very much believe, much to the discontent of my council members, other than the 6 Republicans and the 3 common sense Democrats, 9 of us, we really believe, I truly believe, that the mayor wants this center. Mm-hmm. He wants this. Okay. And you see what the left did to him. The progressives cannot stand him. The radical progressives hate him. Yeah. Because he's not left and progressive enough. And every time he tried to move that pendulum more towards the middle, that's when they reacted. Isn't it odd? And I said it from the beginning. Isn't it odd that they went into that big desk drawer, I call it, and they looked at the files, and all of a sudden they took out a whole bunch of stuff because you weren't following the beat of their drum.
Right.
So now we got this against Adams. We got that against Adams. I'm a person who's very much today. I don't care what Adams did 20 or 30 years ago. The guy was 30 years old. He's 63 years old today. Okay? What he did is what he did. And you know what? I'm not a judge. I'm not a jury. Let's see what happens. And if he claims he's innocent, and I hear a lot of mixed messages about that, I could say for myself that we could be polar opposites with the immigrants and crime. He wanted to reinstate ICE. He came out about that last January, a year ago, coming up soon. And as soon as he did that, smack him down. Yeah. As soon as he tried to stand for any sort of law and order, when he said, let's get them the homeless off the streets involuntarily, the people went nuts.
Yeah, the
left can't have that.
It's got to be pretty tough in New York. I wanted to ask you here, Sumit. I don't know how much experience you have with the brothers Cuomo at all. Obviously, one was governor and one was on CNN. What your experience has been, and if you think that Chris Cuomo, who was diehard anti-Trump, I mean every single talking point you can imagine, a COVIDian of the highest order, now claiming that he's moderate or he's leaning more right. Do you think it's genuine, or do you think it's he lost his job and now he has to make a living somewhere?
I have no bones about Chris Cuomo. Here's the deal. He wants to be governor again or mayor.
Well, wait, hold on. So Chris Cuomo is the brother who was the anchor. You're talking about Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew, sorry.
Yeah.
Chris, I believe. Chris is a schmuck.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. that's aptly put. Aptly put.
Are you going to use this in a clip?
No, it's fine. We don't clip things out of context. But he is a schmuck when he was going, hey, Fredo is an insult to your people. I'm like, I have plenty of Italian friends.
You know what? Here's the deal. The big brother, the little brother, right? Okay. Typical Italian setup. You got his father was the governor, not for anything, but to quote my mother, may she rest in peace, I can't stand that guy even though he's one of my own. Right. Okay? That's the way the Italians are. And they're all Queens boys. Yeah. We're all raised in Queens. We're all about the same age, not Chris, myself, and some of us, Trump. We're all from Queens, all of us. We all got that edge.
Yeah.
And that's an edge that really cuts. Mm-hmm. And he's got that cutting edge. Okay. Now, Andrew Cuomo went to St. John's University. I'm going to tell you a little story about Andrew Cuomo.
Okay, all right.
Andrew Cuomo hung out at a bar. It was called the Hill Bar.
Okay.
And it was in Flushing. And a lot of the St. John's guys used to go there. I never went. My husband never went because he was a couple of years younger, like a generation behind us.
Okay.
So they used to beat the shit out of him just for fun. They used to come in there. Don't use this either. Okay? Because you did a really funny clip of me not long ago when we were talking about whatever we talked about, and it was hysterical. Everybody was laughing for weeks.
Okay.
But, and I couldn't wait to do this show again because you are so much fun, and I can just say what I want to say.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Anyway,
so they beat the shit out of him for fun. You mean Cuomo?
Yes, because he would go in there with this cocky ass attitude because his father was governor.
Right.
So, hey, you don't go into a bar like the Hill Bar that was known to do exactly that.
Yeah.
There was the type of place where you went, the guys always went.
Yeah.
They'd belt back a few. There was always whatever went on. None of my business. I don't care.
Right.
And it was just a little background story on Andrew.
The fake tough guy act a little bit where they go out and New York. It's like, I don't really think you're as tough as you're portraying yourself.
But here's the problem. Here's the thing. He got to become governor.
Right.
Okay, but he had his steps going up the ladder because of his family ties. So political. And he moved up that ladder and eventually became governor. He's one of the reasons, sidebar real quick, NYC is in the condition that it's in.
Right.
Is because of Andrew Cuomo.
Mm-hmm.
So now he becomes governor. And that April day, I will never forget that April day in 2020. And I went all over social media with it. When he crowned himself king, emperor of New York.
Yeah.
And even though they shut us down the day before St. Patrick's Day, on that Saturday, now just think of the brain and how it works. Here in New York, right, night before St. Patty's Day, these bar owners, they make their money on several big holidays through the year to carry them through financially.
Sure.
So here this son of a bitch closes us down. No.
Yeah.
Closes us down because I was really pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Closed us down. That was it. And then he wakes up that April day and he declares himself emperor of the state of New York and the city of New York and closes everything down, and declares a state of emergency. Okay, let's go over a state of emergency, why don't we?
Yeah.
A state of emergency is a temporary situation.
Right.
Whereas when something gets out of control, like we could have declared New York a state of emergency when we were having this crime wave with the migrants that we were having.
Right.
I was pushing for that too, but it's tied to the state, and I couldn't have it happen.
Okay.
So they shut me down.
All right.
That's all right. But go back to him. So now, every 3 months, he should have been brought forward again because de Blasio walked in lockstep with him. Mm-hmm. So you have the state and the city took away jobs, wrecked our small businesses that still have yet to come back.
Yeah.
The bricks and mortar stores are gone. They're gone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And what we saw happen with the burning of our city, BLM, Antifa, come on.
Yeah.
And nobody did anything to help us here. He was governor back then.
Yeah.
Then he rolls in, into our nursing homes. Those people who had healthy, elderly moms and dads and grandparents in our nursing homes, he puts in the COVID, people infected with COVID.
Yep.
People died because of him. People lost their jobs because of him. I ask you this, how well are people's memories?
Yeah. That's
when
good.
he goes to run.
Yeah.
How short are people's memories? So now you got him, you got Tish James, you got a lot of people who want this seat for mayor with the eventuality. Now, Hochul, I cannot stand her either. She's got to go.
Surprise. Yeah.
So we got 25 city race. I'm running for re-election in 25. City council entirety, 25. Yeah. State is 26.
Okay.
So there's major replacements that could come down the pike.
Yeah.
In just a few short months, I'll be campaigning like crazy because I can't be too sure. I'm 8-1. Yeah. And though I am very well respected by my Democrats here because I walk the middle line of common sense and everything, I get along so well. As much as I sound the way you know, I talk just like this to no matter.
No, it's New York. Yeah, I get it.
And they get me.
Yeah.
And one thing that I promise them, my Democrat friends, is total transparency. You may like what I say and agree with me, and that's great. You may dislike what I say and disagree with me, and that's just as okay.
Right.
Let's try to find middle ground so that we can get District 19 to work to the best of its ability. And I've protected District 19. I've worked very, very hard to keep my district safe.
Yeah.
And everything my office has done in lockstep. And I've gotten along very well with the city officials. So I am worried about the mayor's race, extremely worried, because we need and Curtis Lewa, who started the Guardian Angels, he's the only Republican that's put his hat in the ring for the second time to run for mayor.
Well, like you said, the state and the city is really run by nonprofits. And I will say this, there's unfortunately a lot of undue influence on the Republican side and the conservative side from nonprofits. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the only, you say you feel like you can say anything here. That's because this is one of the only entities that isn't an outright nonprofit or doesn't have a sister nonprofit. A lot of conservative media companies, and it's something we've actively fought against, because if you have some key donors, guess what? You have to do the key donors' bidding.
Your own.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to a lot of, like, Fordham University is a Catholic university. Mm-hmm. St. John's Catholic University. As soon as they took $1 from the state, the Blessed Mother was covered.
Yep.
Crucifixes were taken down. You just sold your soul.
Yep.
Catholic Charities. How do you think the migrants are getting here?
Right.
Now, as a city councilwoman, everybody who bangs on my door, which will start now again for the next fiscal year. Sure. My budget guy is so amazing. We look into all of the non-for-profits. Yeah. And the first thing we dig now. First year, I was a little ignorant. Second year, tinkering on ignorance. Brought in, no, really, because you got to know, follow, well, they do this and they've been around since 1970, whatever, they're going to help.
That's what Donald Trump ran into, right? He said, I trusted some advisors who knew how this game was played, and then he found out it's not the game he wanted to play. It happens to the best of us.
And now I have my budget director, who's amazing, and he says, hey, Vic, you know what? Here's the bottom line. This is what so-and-so gets paid at the head, and this is where the money's going. Because I've always been, whether I was an elected official or not, I wanted to know, and now our budget is well over $107 billion a year. $107 billion. Wow. Are you friggin' kidding me? Where is this money going? No, where is the money?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely.
Take it down for me. So now this go around in 25 into the 26, we did 25, 26 fiscal year is going into play. It's going to start right away now. This is going to change as far as I go. Yeah. Because these non-for-profits, I got to bid twice and 3 times.
No, you're right. And it definitely makes the city less efficient and less safe. I mean, we talked about this a long time ago with the World Trade Center. I can't remember how long it had taken, but I know it was 2000, I believe 11 or 12, and it had not been rebuilt. The Empire State Building, I'm going by road. It was either 10 months or it was 14 months, and it was done.
1 year.
It was 1 year. Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah. It was 1 year. How long has it taken to build that second subway line in the on the east side? It's since the 70s.
2 decades or more. I can't get an extension on a school built.
Right.
That doesn't take. I'll talk to you another day about what my plans are for this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
But I can't get a school, annex built on a school. It'll take forever. Yep. A playground, 7-8 years, $12 million. A reading garden, $1 million. Are you friggin' kidding me? I used to be in landscaping.
A reading garden?
A reading garden outside of a school. I fully funded it. $500,000. Okay. They're going to get a beautiful reading garden, which of course is $500,000 overpriced.
Yes.
But that's just the way it goes, right? But the school is great. They needed their reading garden.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
fund it.
Okay.
They come back the following year because I ask all my principals, keep track of your money.
Yeah.
I want to know about the money. Well, Vic, no. No, well, Vic, I don't like that. Don't start a sentence with, well, Vic, It doesn't fly.
No, not at all.
So then I get on the phone. And I said, what's going on? And Eric in his office, he has a really big screen. So we put everybody up on, we don't do a Zoom on this little laptop. We put you on a big screen.
Okay.
So, because they got to see me and they got to hear and they got to know.
Yeah.
And Eric too. Eric is line by line by line. He's great.
Yeah.
So now they tell me I'm 500 short. I says, whoa, wait a minute. So you're telling me now $1 million? So you want another $500,000? Now, when I say my money, I'm talking about the taxpayer dollar.
Right.
Of the New York City, residents. So I'm talking about their money.
Yeah.
And you want another $500,000? I said, no, not in this lifetime. No. I said, you don't need a reading garden that bad. And I'll tell you this, if I could send in, which is what I've been after with since I took office, if we could take this pie that we have and slice it up into 51 pieces, because there's 51 council districts.
Right.
A great way to keep small business in business is to give one of my local landscapers the reading garden.
Yeah.
Let them go through the red tape.
Yes. Don't get my landscaper, because my landscaper, I was putting in a garden, he put in a bunch of pansies, and then the rabbits ate all of them. And he came back, and he's like, well, they looked nice, but I didn't know. He was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, how did you, there's literally dozens of rabbits around it the whole time. You clearly knew there were going to be rabbits. So don't go with my landscaper, is my only point.
No, I'll use my landscaper.
Okay, good.
My landscaper is great.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if they want, because they worry about graft, are they kidding me? Really, with this corruption, you're going to worry? No, they do things through you. They get their permits. Yeah. I told Parks. I told School Construction Authority. They go through you. They get everything that they need. Let my local guys do the bidding.
Yeah.
Make it open to all of Queens. It doesn't even have to be just District 19.
Yeah.
Let's play fair here.
I know. What's so funny is in every Disney film, we talk about this a lot, and in the media, it's the evil corporate, right? The oil baron, the businessman. I'm going, well, hold on a second. Why all of a sudden, when people are not beholden to providing some kind of a commodity, goods or services to people who actually willingly buy them, why all of a sudden, when it's through mandate, when they go to government, we believe they're inherently altruistic? At least there's some kind of guardrail in accountability. I mean, if you have a contract with local landscapers, you make sure the contract includes accountability so that, I don't know, if they put something there where some kid impales himself on some petunia, I have no idea. Of course, then the guy's liable. It's not that complicated.
Before I was this, as I owned a landscaping company with my husband.
Okay.
So when I first took office, and then I went into manufacturing with my sister Joanne, and that's when I retired until I got elected, and I unretired. But as it went, when I sat down with Parks for the first time pertaining to something else that I wanted to get finished, my predecessor never finished it.
Yeah.
And I said, oh no, this isn't how it's going to work. I brought them all in. Big table. Well, when they heard me talk about softscape, hardscape, waterscape, landscape, they did not know. No. It was so great.
It was like Marissa Tomei talking about cars and My Cousin Vinny.
That was
the
great.
Buick Skylark.
Yeah, like you blend.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. You blend. Yes.
Now, not for anything. Back in those days, I looked a little like her because I wore my hair like that, and they used to joke about.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
But anyway, it was funny.
Yeah, that's great. You're able to. But that's the value of some real life world experience, right? Where they go, oh wait, this person hasn't suckled at the government teat their entire life. They've actually entered public service, even though it wasn't necessary. You chose to. And I think there's when people say public servant, I go, yeah. When you think servant, you think someone at 5-course meals and cocktail parties, because a lot of these public servants, they make 6-figure incomes with Cadillac pensions, and it's the only way they've made a dime. Yeah.
No, I know that. And we have that all over the place. That's why when I come in, somebody like Bob Holden, who's a Democrat, but he's in our Common Sense Caucus, he is amazing. When you have people come from the private sector and hand it to Donald Trump for knowing this as well, you view the world in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like to take from Peter to pay Paul.
Yep.
You know how you know how to work it.
Yeah.
You just do, and it's inherent to you.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And, you know what it's like when you can't rub two nickels together. You know what it's like to have to put food on your employee's table. They ate before we did.
Of course.
And that's just the way it went.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it was a struggle for a very long time. I was in business for 30 years. It had its highs. It had its lows. It had its flat line.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, my husband in his 50s, he'll be 72 this month. In his 50s, he said, Vic, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
Regulation after regulation that the city put on, it cost too much money to be in business. And to be in a successful business. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And he said, Vic, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I said, are you really sure? Because we're young. Are you really sure? He says, yeah. But you know what he does now? He drives a truck.
There you go.
And he made sure from the time he was 18 years old, he never went to college, and neither did I. Mm-hmm. Because that's a very funny thing, because I had a young kid ask me in school, what college did you go to? Councilwoman, what college did you go to? And a lot of the little kids call me Vickie. Yeah. They hug me by the waist. So cute.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I didn't.
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
You didn't know? No. So when I speak to a graduating class, whether it be a middle school or whether it be a high school, I get very serious with them. And I tell them it's okay to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Some of our most brilliant minds come from thinking outside the box. I'm an outside the box thinker. There's nobody here telling you at 16 or 17 you're supposed to know what you want to be when you grow up. Unless you're fortunate enough to know that, hey, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a musician, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. Don't let anybody poo-poo on your dreams.
Yeah. No,
Think about it. Think about it.
I think you're right.
So that's really what this has been about for me, and any influence I could give to my young people, I always go to them.
Yeah.
Because they, to me, are my heart and my soul. I love them all, and especially my young guys. I call them my young guns. The New York YRs, with Gavin Wax and the bunch of them, and I have so many of them. To me, they're a wonder. A lot of older people look at them as a threat. They're nobody's threat. They're the future. And this is the future. You're the future.
Well, I don't know about that. But thank you very much. I tell little when I speak to grade school children, I tell them, don't go to college, and smoking makes you look really cool. And they don't invite me back. And I go, look at this. You see how cool I look? Look at this, like James Dean. But
you see these?
All right, she's old school with that. Well, look, Vickie, we've gone over time here. For people who are here on Rumble Premium, it's Vickie for NYC on X. Look forward to having you back and keeping us updated. Really, you're a breath of fresh air, and I wish there were more servants like you who are actually serving the public, and it would make a big difference.
Can I give a little plug?
Yes.
If anybody wants to donate now to my campaign, I don't know, cut this out if I'm not allowed to say.
No, of course you are.
I am? Okay. If anybody wants to donate to my campaign, it's Vickie for NYC.com, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I got it.
No, well, hold on a second. I'll find it. But you know what? I want to touch on this really quickly.
I don't know about money.
No, but this matters. This matters because you know what? For people who don't realize, she said, "Am I allowed to say that?" And the reason why is because I know, Vickie, if you go on other shows, again, there's the nonprofit influence, right? If it's a 501c3, if there's an association with a lot of these conservative organizations, technically, you're not allowed to support a candidate. We don't do that here. What's the URL?
It's Vickie4NYC.com.
Vickie4NYC.com. For crying out loud, you can hawk your landscaping business if you want to here. We have no strings.
That's dead and buried, literally. Literally dead and buried. But anyway, no, I thank you. And any donation, $5, $10, whatever the heck anybody wants to give, is more than appreciated, because don't think the left doesn't want to take me out.
No, I guarantee you they do. You're very effective. And we appreciate you taking the time. We look forward to having you back. Thank you, Vickie.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back. This was great.
Hey, if you like this video, you can comment below. We always appreciate your feedback. Or click one of these, which will be similar as far as rebuttals, claims, truth, maybe it changed my mind. Or sometimes we talk about the difference between men and women, how dogs are different from cats, airline food, No punchline, just premises, because this is the internet in the 21st damn century.